If you in the self-improvement space, I'm sure you know what Eat the Frog is. It's for those who don't know, it's doing the hard thing first. Eating the frog means if you had your favorite food and a frog and you had to eat one before the other, you should eat the frog first because then you could get the nasty taste of the frog out with your favorite food. Versus if you eat the favorite food first and then the frog, then you're just gonna have that bad taste in your mouth. Right? So I forgot who coined that term, but I'm sure you know what it is. You can look it up if you really care to know. Essentially, it's about doing the tough thing first. Simply. In an array of options, you should be doing the hardest thing first. This takes me back to when I was in school and I had a lot of homework. And typically, I would do the easiest thing first. I'm like, I'm gonna just get this out the way and then focus on. No. See, it makes more sense to do the harder thing first because then you'll be able to use more brain power. Versus if you do the hardest thing last, you won't have as many brain points in reserve. Does that make sense? So when you do the hard thing first, it's easier to put in effort. It's easier to use brain power. You have more brain power to use. And so usually I would get off work, then record. But I realized it's not a good idea. Now I decided I have to wake up earlier to record. Yeah, it's gonna suck. Yeah, you're gonna have to go to sleep early even though you don't want to. The only peace and quiet you really get is from nighttime. But you gotta realize this. I've said before, sacrifices. I know I'm going all over the place, but I need to say this. You gotta make the sacrifices. And sometimes you gotta eat that frog first. From my experience, waking up in the morning and then immediately doing the difficult task has been way easier because it's how you start your day. That's the key, is how you start your day. If you start your day with a difficult task, it's not going to seem as difficult versus doing something easy and then doing the hard task. If you do the hard task, you kind of set the baseline already, and then the easy task is like nothing to you. It's like dopamine. It's like how dopamine works. If you don't know how dopamine works, essentially dopamine has a baseline, right? And when you do something that immediately increases dopamine, guess what? It goes back down, not to the baseline, but below the baseline. And that's your new baseline. And the opposite happens when you do something that's generally considered hard. It will go below baseline, right? But then it'll go back up, not back to baseline, but above baseline. And so when you do that hard task, sure, it might suck for like the first few seconds, but then you'll realize it's not so bad, and then you'll go above baseline. Versus when you do that easy task, you'll go above, you really, really like it, but then after you're done, you're like, I feel like shit. Definitely something to think about. It's just like dopamine. I encourage you to study how dopamine works. It's a whole system. It can be hacked. And I think the easiest way to hack it is in the morning. Because think about it, you woke up, you've literally done nothing. Well, consciously, you've done nothing for hopefully 8 hours. And now the first decision you make will determine the rest of your day. Eat the frog and embrace infinity. Later.